Today is Tuesday, August 23rd, and you're listening to the Beer Temple Podcast.
Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again. Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again.
Hello, and welcome to the Beer Temple Podcast. I am your co-host, Mike Shalau from Is Was Brewing, and I'm here with my co-host, Chris Quinn of Beer Temple. Chris, how you doing?
Doing well. I'm convinced I'm going to be eaten by mosquitoes during this podcast.
We are indoors.
Okay. We are indoors.
And there might have been one mosquito, maybe.
Oh, it was a mosquito. I thought it was, and Serge confirmed. And if there's a mosquito in this room, it will be buzzing around me within at least 1 minute. I mean, it was already stuck right to me. It's probably already bitten me, but we'll see. So I'm going to be doing a lot of this.
You're
just
having a rough
arms.
couple of episodes. You're coming in from your car crash last week.
That's right.
Now there's a mosquito in the room.
Mosquito. I mean,
You
I don't know which is
IL or
worse.
Yeah, I can't tell.
Yeah. So, but I'm doing okay. Other than that,
That's good.
yeah. Last week was, I feel like I'm just getting caught up with stuff, because getting in a car crash is a huge pain in the butt, man.
And your sternum.
Yeah, well, I had to go to the doctor. I had to, I was in physical discomfort and still am somewhat. Although it gets better throughout the day, which is nice, and then it starts off like at the end of the day, it starts hurting again. But like right now, it feels like great. And I remember feeling like this time yesterday. I'd be like, oh, I'm all better. And then in the morning, having to like roll and then like slide belly first, like or feet first, but on my belly out of bed. I was like, okay, well, it's obviously not better.
So you just shouldn't go to sleep, is what the doctor said.
That's what the doctor
It only hurts
said.
when you're waking up. You shouldn't go to bed.
Yes. But I did hear from the insurance company, and it's sounding very good based on witnesses and video. There's video of it because
really?
we're always being videoed at all times.
Well, you were recording a Snapchat or a TikTok while you were making a U-turn.
Both of them.
Yeah.
I had two phones.
Yeah.
No, I had two phones. One was open to Snapchat. The other was open to TikTok.
No hands on the wheel. Just
exactly.
You were trying to record one of Doug's like 2-person videos that you were editing together, but you were trying to do them at the same time.
Exactly. I was playing two different characters.
And the other person was at fault.
Yeah. The other person, yes, going back to it. The other person was even more reckless.
Yeah.
So that was good. So now we'll have to figure out. But what a pain in the butt. Just really is not something I recommend doing, getting in a car crash. So
I've only been in one car crash, and it was exceedingly easy for me because I was just a passenger, and it was a rental car, and they had the full insurance, and they just took the car away, and we went home the next day, and everyone was fine.
Oh, yeah. I've been in three big ones.
It was easier than returning the rental car.
Wow. Yeah, no. This was the biggest crash I've been in. I was talking about it in 30 years, but 30 years ago I was in a huge crash, and then probably 5 or 6 or 7 years before that I was in a pretty big crash too. So I've been in 3 big car crashes.
Maybe you shouldn't drive anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I was only driving this was the only time I was driving.
That's good, I guess.
Yeah. So we'll see. I'm doing well. Freaking out a little bit about Swansea Day. And
the 23rd?
Yes. My plan had been to do a whole pig porchetta, and I was like trying to look it up. I was like, all right, who around here does one of those? So I'm like, whole pig porchetta, Chicago. Esposito's porchetta comes up. I was like, perfect. This is exactly what I want. Look at it. It's perfect. Like, oh, this is just like it. And then it was like, get South Philly style rolls with it, and long hots and sharp provolone. I was like, this is amazing.
They're not
Dude,
in
the whole
Chicago,
thing.
are they?
They're in Philadelphia, and I've ordered a pig from them in the past. So they did my when I came back from Ireland, they did the wedding reception pig that we had. So I should have probably figured it out that it was too good to be true. It was the number one Google result though, after ads.
Gotcha.
After you put in Italian, a whole pig porchetta, Chicago.
Even
It comes up as this. So I guess it's a Philadelphia thing, apparently. You guys are missing out because it's great.
I don't know if I've ever had the whole pig.
The whole pig porchetta, yeah. Or porchetta, yeah. We'll see. I mean, if you get one at Swansea. So then I found out today that this whole plan, and also what I had been budgeting based on, yeah. Some people...
This is unlike you to have things thrown into complete chaos a couple of weeks before the event.
It's a month out. We'll be good. Yeah, and some people, just highway robbery what they're trying to get for a whole pig. Like, one of them would have come out. So the Esposito's was going to come out to like $500
plus
for
$700 in gas
huge,
and travel.
Right, for a huge pig.
Yeah.
And then I think it was like $150 to have a dude come out and carve it for you for 2 hours. This place came out to it was going to come out to $5,000 for a pig and a guy carving it. And it was some guy, someplace local, some like...
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, but they were artisan, and they looked, their jeans were cuffed. So, they knew what they were doing.
Just because my jeans are cuffed doesn't mean...
Anyway.
It just means I'm short. Doesn't mean anything.
Sure. But they were playing the role. I guess the role was we know how to roast a pig 10 times better than Esposito's in South Philly because we're charging 10 times as much. I guess.
I bet you could call Esposito's and be like, "Will you come to Chicago for less than $5,000?"
$5,000.
Yeah, probably.
Well, no. I mean, you know who else will do it? If you start looking up in like Wisconsin and stuff, you'll find people who will do it for less up there too. So that's kind of what I'm looking at around there. So we'll see. We're gonna have good food.
Yeah.
Good food, good beer.
This isn't gonna be like Fire Fest where everyone gets like a slice of cheese and bread and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I said good food.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Your own PVC tent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It'll
It'll
be a
be
good
we're gonna make history. We're gonna be trending on all the social medias. Hopefully not because of how piss poor of a job we did, but we will see. No, it's gonna be
just about
it's gonna
getting
be fun.
seen this day and age. So
It's exactly. So, so yeah, that's what I've been thrown into a tizzy today about. It was like, oh my God, I got to find something to do an entire pig.
have you had any beers you liked recently?
Good question. I had a well, should I answer honestly?
Oh, you haven't? No, you haven't had any beers?
No, I have. I have.
Yeah, you should answer honestly. No, lie to the people.
Was it last week that I was talking about how amazing the Trumer tastes? Because it's still so good. We put it back on draft, and it's so darn good.
So
aside from that, I had a BAM beer today.
Bottle or can?
With a can.
I got like a fresh one.
Yeah, it was really good.
It's a good beer.
Yeah, it's a great beer.
Yeah.
Good farmhouse, a traditional, historic farmhouse ale. Just like my great-great-grandpappy used to brew on the farm.
Just like Will told us. Is definitely true.
How about you?
We made, this is a long time ago now, a while ago, we brewed a collaboration with Griffin Claw in outside of Detroit in Michigan. So Pat Craddock, who's their CFO, won that silent auction thing I did with Doug to brew with us. Just personally, he won that. And then they just got some fooders, and they wanted to make some Saison. And so I drove up there because my girlfriend's from Detroit, so we saw her family and
Okay.
went and brewed a collaboration with them. Brewed with the same Saison yeast we use. They have a mash filter too, so we use some cool, alternate grains and some Sugar Creek malt and stuff.
Nice.
And stainless fermentation, and then into the foeder, conditioned on honey for several months. Then dry hopped with a touch of El Dorado. So all the kettle hopping was like noble hops, and then a touch of El Dorado dry hop for like that pineapple character. Because the first time they'd use this foeder, and it's a Foeder Crafters American Oak foeder. So the idea was to make it kind of this like pina colada-y, because there's no way to not get that vanilla-y, coconut-y
That first
note.
time round.
And then to add a little bit of like context to it with the pineapple from the hops. And they just sent me some of it, and it tastes great.
Oh, good.
And so it should be available at some point in the near future. Probably only at their tap rooms, and very limited distribution up in Detroit. And it was fun because they asked Joe, who's our label artist, to do the label for it. And so seeing his artwork like on a can was pretty cool. We haven't done that yet.
Give you some ideas
No.
of what you're going to be doing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's called I think it's called Noble Guardian. It's mostly noble hopped, and then Griffin is like a guardian of like treasure and
Got it.
stuff like that.
I went to the Omega Yeast Labs facility. I had been there
cool
like
spot.
a couple of years ago, and it's
different
very
now.
different now. It's
Yeah.
huge, very high tech. They have a mash filter.
They do.
Are those common now? Those mash filters?
No, they're really expensive.
Yeah, I mean, it looked expensive.
I've only seen 4 of them in my entire life, and I've probably been to like 100 breweries.
Yeah, I think I've seen that. I knew it was one,
Yeah.
and that was the one at Omega. Now, I'm sure I've been to giant breweries that have mash filters. I'm sure.
Yeah. Ironically, one of the only places I've seen one was Blaugie.
Oh, they
I
have
don't know
one?
if they want to tell people that, but they have a mash filter. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, they're incredibly good for efficiency, and you can use grains you wouldn't normally be able to use at quantities you wouldn't normally be able to use them.
Right. You can do like 100% rye if you want, or something like that.
Yeah. And one of the other ones I saw was in China, and it was partially, I mean, efficiency is the main reason, but partially because they got charged for the weight of their waste. And because of how efficient they are in pressing out all of the liquid from them, the waste is so much lighter than any other mashing technique you would use.
Sure.
So it was like a fraction of the cost it would normally have been if they were using. Not only it was also like a huge brewery.
Interesting.
But it is kind of surprising that you see breweries like the size of Lagunitas, and they just still have traditional mashing techniques because it's so much more efficient, and there's nothing that will tell you that it's a mash filter versus, well, I'm sure Germans will tell you that you can't. That's not true, but then they also all probably have mash filters.
Yeah, they probably do too.
Yeah, same with the Belgians. But yeah, it's surprising when you see those big breweries and they don't use that now. I'm looking at it.
I'm guessing that, in maybe 10, 15 years' time, more and more and more people will start using these things. They'll probably come down in price, perhaps.
Hopefully, who knows? Maybe.
Yeah.
I think they're still so specialty. Mm-hmm. Like, and they're almost the smallest one I'd seen was at Griffin Claw, and it's intended to be like a 40 barrel.
Okay.
I mean, we brewed 15 on it, so it's modular like that, but they don't make them for like 7 barrel brew houses, as far as I know.
You know, I failed to mention I did have another beer that I really liked recently, very recently.
Yeah.
On cask.
Oh yeah.
Midland's Mild from Art History.
The one you're drinking right now.
I'm drinking it right now.
The second one.
I legitimately did like it very much. I ordered 2 in a row, which is not something I do too often. So very good. Very
haven't
good
had one
mild.
yet, so-
3.8%.
Oh, it's a little high.
Yeah, so it's, you gotta,
Pace yourself.
yeah,
Yeah.
you gotta step up, work your way up to it.
We another beer that I haven't had, but I'm excited to have at some point. We brewed another collaboration with a brewery in Pittsburgh called Coven, and that one is a Tepache inspired. So similarly, like pineapple-y beer, but actually that one actually has pineapple in it and Piloncillo sugar, and it's a saison. They're a cool little brewery that we collabed with when we were out there for that Mixed Culture Fest.
Oh, nice. Keep busy.
So if you're if Yins are in Pittsburgh, grab you some and go drink them at Titty Sphinx.
What's the place called?
Titty Sphinx?
Titty Sphinx?
Yeah. It's
That's the name of the brewery.
No, the
No.
brewery is called Coven, but they're right by a cemetery that has a landmark that everyone knows in Pittsburgh called Titty Sphinx, and unsurprisingly, it's a mausoleum that has two sphinxes that just for some reason have like
Big chests.
just it bolted on circles.
Okay.
in their chest. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, we went there when we were there. Went to Apteca with the Iswas crew and Jared from Solomoth, and then we went to drink some Iron Cities at Titty Sphinx.
You drank just walked into the cemetery and drank there.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's a hangout spot I think for the youths of Pittsburgh.
The 30-something youths.
Yeah, well, we ran into some kids that were much younger than us, and they were kind of pissed at us that we were killing the vibe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, Mike, do you have a date for the party? No, I've been combing the high schools all day. Still can't find anyone.
Yeah. Titty Sphinx.
Okay. Well,
Are you gonna believe Titty Sphinx?
probably. There's a lot
Serge is
of
writing
them.
it down like I'm swearing. It's a cultural icon, Serge,
Yeah, for underage youths
to drink in a cemetery.
to drink in the cemetery. Because, yeah.
Titty Sphinx.
So, man, you're making this guy do more work every time you say that. Don't
I
do
think
that.
that's a fine word.
Okay.
The name of a bird.
Yeah. So what should we do? Is there any news that you want to talk about, Mike? Where should we go?
I think
What are we doing?
We got some electronic letters, as the kids
We
like to call
do.
them. The kids at Titty Sphinx were calling them electronic letters.
Yeah, that's what they all call them these days, I've heard.
I'm sorry, sir. Don't stop.
You're not sorry.
I'm
You
not
probably
sorry.
won't stop.
I'm delighted by it. Hopefully we can stop talking about Titty Sphinx soon.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Sorry. Now I'm just thinking about what it will sound like when it's beep Sphinx. And people are like, what is he
I
saying?
think he just cuts it out. He just cuts it out. So it just goes blank. So the whole episode just drops and then picks up
why
again.
Why is Mike stuttering about sphinxes?
Exactly. So it'll be like, it'll be, Sphinx and then blah, 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 Sphinx. So
Sphinx.
that's what's happening. Yeah, we do have a bunch of electronic letters. We don't have a bunch of handwritten letters. So don't forget, we love electronic letters. Mm-hmm. They are very convenient. They don't require postage or anything like that, or an envelope, But if you do want to send one, those are especially appreciated. You can send them to right here at the Beer Temple, 3173 North Elston Avenue in Chicago, Illinois, 60618. And just, I don't know, put, Beer Temple Podcast or Mike or Serge or me. I was trying to think who else they could send it to. Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm also a little bit out of sorts right now because we were meeting to talk about future episodes, and then apparently the Chicago Darts League just showed up and was like, "Yeah, our championship game's here tonight," and nobody said that to us. So they just showed up, and there was already an event going on in that room. We had to move everyone out of the way, and then some guy was like, "This place effing sucks for watching darts," and I was like,
It's a beer bar.
"Beer bar, man." I was like, I just pulled him aside. I was like, "Look, nobody told us we were doing this, because all I needed to do was redirect his anger so he could be angry at somebody else,
Right.
And
Deflect.
The quote unquote the league is a great,
Yeah.
great for that.
The monolith of this league of 12 people
Typical.
playing darts. Yeah.
Typical. I
Classic,
know, right?
The league.
I know. Jeez. So we had to move around tables and move people. I felt bad for the normal crew who's playing D&D, and we had to
Right.
move them. And
Well, you
bunch
do
of
take your
people.
darts very seriously.
not that seriously.
I was remarking to Max when you were dealing with the situation that I think the only episode, so you got in a car crash the day before we recorded last week's episode, but the only episode where you were in town that you didn't record was because you had a darts game.
I think it was the I think it was like a playoffs game.
Yeah.
Or
Actually, I think we might have skipped one for Villanova Final Four, and we skipped one
Right.
for the Darts League. But those are the only ones that we skipped where we've both been in town and had something scheduled.
Well, I feel weird because I feel like I'm obligated to do both things in that case. So I don't know. So I get torn.
Right, it's a holy day of obligation to go to watch the Final Four.
Well, that obviously.
Yeah.
I don't even want to talk about that. Let's not talk about that. Now that Jay Wright's retired, I still need to. I'm still processing that whole thing.
You ever meet him?
I don't know.
I met him once.
Harry's a nice guy. I mean, I shook his
guy.
hand and stuff
Very
like
handsome.
that, but he's a handsome, well-dressed dude.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give him that.
Yep. I think I met him one of the first years he was at Villanova. My sister went there.
Oh, okay.
She's a lot
Yes.
smarter than I am.
Is she though? No, I'm kidding.
There's different types of intelligence.
I don't know. I agree. So we've got a bunch of letters, and there tends to be there's a theme, right? Mm-hmm. It seems like we talked about this IPA episode. If you haven't listened to it, go back, and it's called, I think it's like maybe 3 episodes ago now, and it's something about like IPA is ruining craft beer or something like that. I don't know. I don't remember which episode it is. What do you want from me?
I'll look it up.
I'll look it up. Just we'll look it up on air. That's always really good radio. 256 is IPA killing craft beer is what it is. So I guess it was 2 episodes ago is what it would be.
Where we read Jim Vorel's article about how Sierra Nevada basically only makes IPA now, right? Is it Jim? Is that
Right. Yeah, and then I went to Sierra Nevada the following week, or like,
and you yelled at Ken Grossman.
Yep,
You're killing craft beer.
you're killing
And
craft
then he
beer.
got in his private jet and left.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you were not happy to learn that Ken Grossman has a private jet.
It's off-brand, I feel like.
I guess, I suppose.
I mean, there's no single activity that is worse for the environment than flying 2 people in a plane across the country.
Maybe he doesn't fly 2 people. Maybe he flies the whole family or something. I don't know. I have no
It's
idea.
still worse than just.
I have no idea what the effect is per flight for a point. I'm not saying it's good. I'm sure it's terrible, but I can't really speak to that. I've never had to look into it. It's never been a concern for me.
Me either.
Yeah. So there's been a bunch about that, but then there's also just a general question as well, which I thought was kind of cool. So I figured maybe we'd get into the IPA one in a little bit, but before that we have one from Caleb. So remember, when you're writing us letters, electronic letters or regular letters or any other kind of letters, if you want, smoke signals. I don't know how to read smoke signals, so
But yeah, but
I
send
could learn.
We'll figure
Send
it out.
them. We'll figure it out. However you sign the letter is how we will refer to you, because you might want to stay.
What do you think the smoke signal is for hazy IPA? It's just a bunch of smoke. It's like a general fog.
No, you make like you can do this little maneuver where you make it's like a round bit of disc of smoke with almost like little perforated sharp edges around it, and then you do 5 of them real quick, and it looks like 5 little bottle caps kind of floating up into the air.
Right, yeah.
And you're like, oh, we must be talking about haze whales right
Yeah,
now.
that's got to be it. Mm-hmm. That's King Julius for sure.
Exactly. I mean, that's how I would imagine that's how you would do it.
Right.
I mean, I guess we could there's probably a lot of words that are not in the smoke signal language that we could formally invent.
What do you think the smoke signal is for Iceman pour?
Oh, that's a good one too. I think that's when you just hold the blanket over the fire until it is just completely full. And then you just like pull it away, almost like you're pulling the tablecloth off a fully set table, and just they all kind of stay there. So I think you just like pull the blanket away immediately and just let the whole thing, like a whole like rectangle or so of smoke, just kind of go up.
And then how does that differ from a boss pour?
Oh,
Smoke
completely
signal.
different. I don't think we have time to go
Is that
into
one
it.
where you put the whole blanket over there and you collect it and then you pull it off really fast and then it floats up?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but different.
different.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the Iceman pour.
Yeah, I'm always been a boss pour man.
That's
myself.
okay. You know, that's what, it's cool that we still get along.
Yeah, it's tough.
So, I'm still remembering the video I did one time.
On Iceman and boss pours.
I did. Do you remember how it was a
I don't
video? I think I did it on Instagram where, and it was something, I think it's gone because it was, it was a story. It was a story. So it only lasted for 24 hours, of how to drink a boss pour. And I said, everyone knows how to pour it, and I poured it. And they said, but nobody knows how to drink it. So you got to like bring it up real close. And then I just kind of like basically did like kitty cat licks. And I, like, and I just had it, and it splashed everywhere.
That's very DJ Doug Pound of you.
Yes. Oh, okay. It was good. But anyway, Caleb is not writing about boss pours or Iceman pours.
Skip it.
Okay, you're right.
Just kidding. Sorry, Caleb.
So here's what he
for
did
writing.
right, though. He said, hello, great podcast. I started listening because I really enjoy Was Beers. Keep up the good work.
First time it's gone that way.
Should we still skip this one, or should we keep reading?
Only read this one.
Okay. Your Untapped episode, 5 out of 5 bottle caps for that episode, by the way. Okay.
This is Darren, huh?
Right. He says at 1 hour, 30 minutes, and 33 seconds,
Jeez.
one of you implies that Austin makes some excellent lagers.
Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
we just
very out of the
imply?
loop on Texas beers. Could you tell me what brewery or breweries you were referring to? Thanks, Caleb.
I'm sure.
Thank you for the letter.
Thank you for the letter. Thank you for drinking our beer. I'm glad you enjoy it. I think Live Oak is probably the paternal version,
Yes.
like the granddaddy. But then
Live
Austin
Oak Pills
City,
is a big one.
I don't remember. I got all the letters ensued. ACBG, Austin City Brewing Company, Beer Garden.
Austin Beer Garden
Brewing
Brewing.
Company. Okay,
So it's ABGB.
ABGB. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they I think they carry the mantle for that now.
Yeah, I think when I was there, they had like a Pilsner or like a light lager or something. I think I said, I'll have the Pilsner, and they said, which one?
They had,
And
like,
I
three.
said, the one that won the gold.
And they said, which one?
And they said, which one? And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, well-
and then I realized they had 4 either Helles or Pils on at that time that had won gold. And I don't know, maybe if it wins a gold, it stays on forever. The feeling was like these kind of come and go, and there might have been even more that have won medals. So
I've only been there. Well, I may have been there twice. I've
been there once.
I only remember being there one time, and it was fantastic. Their beers are incredible and worthy of those medals.
I was there with John Rubio of the Beerists, who lives in Austin.
I was there with Lee.
Lee McComb.
Lee McComb. Yeah, we were at the Honey Beer Summit in Austin.
Honey beer.
Honey, yeah, it's a run by the National Honey Board, and they fly you down to wherever. Either they do in Austin, and they do them in St. Louis, I think.
Yes.
You've been?
Well, no, I know that there was one around the area of Scratch because Aaron from Scratch was talking about how he was going to some like honey summit, bee summit type thing.
And then you sit in like these presentations about honey, and you get to taste honey, and then the rest.
It's a
of the day.
boondoggle.
I mean, I guess so. It's free to go down there, so I got a free trip to Austin out of it. And Lee was down there with a bunch of other people learning about honey, and we went to ABGB.
Austin Beer Garden Brewing.
Yeah.
Yeah, ABGB.
Some great beers.
Yeah. So those would be the two. I would say, there's Austin Beer Co., I think is what it's called. They make great lagers as well. And I do think that it's just kind of in the culture there that if you're going to make a lager, it better be a banger or it's just going to get kind of like laughed off. Like you're not going to get any draft placements or anything like that.
There's no point in playing the game if you're not going to play it as well as the people who are doing it.
So, but I think the two big boys are Live Oak and ABGB.
Right.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
And the ABGB people came from Live Oak. So that's why I said that one first. So.
Right. I think they both make Grzycki's as well, I believe.
The very prolific style of Grzycki.
Popular down there in Austin.
Yep.
And then
it makes sense down there.
And the Hef, obviously.
Gotta have the Hef.
I think my favorite personal Live Oak beer is the Hef.
I think it's the Pils for me.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. So there you go, Caleb. That's an answer to your question, and thank you for sending it. The next it might be about IPAs. This is from Madeline.
Have you not read it yet?
It's from Madeline. No, I have not. But that she just signs it, Madeline. And it says, "Hi, start automating your inventory and supply chain from the palm of your hand with the Retail 360 app. Best part? It's free. Interested? Learn more and discover how the Retail 360 app can benefit your store. Best, Madeline." There's other stuff too, but I'll skip that.
Thanks for writing in, Madeline. That really.
Here's a legit question: how the hell does spam find that?
I have not find this email.
How does it find this email?
I don't know. I have no idea.
It's insane.
Have you ever signed up for any services with this
using
email?
this email? No, absolutely not. Never. I mean, do they just?
So your OnlyFans account isn't linked to this at all?
Exactly. I swear. Well, but I have a filter set up for that, so it doesn't even hit my inbox. That just goes into the requests bin. So that's Madeline. And now we have one from Sam. Sam, I apologize in advance. I did read through this one. This one is about the IPA episode. And it's a fairly long. We have 3 emails about this podcast. So there's obviously a lot of interest in it. We also got people actually giving us face-to-face or at least texting us feedback about this episode as well. So it seems like people liked this. Really, they liked the article by Jim Vorla. That's really what it comes down to.
Just read articles by good writers every once in a while.
It's true. Just read them. Yeah. That Chapo style. We're like, this is a good one. Let's just read it on the air.
Yeah.
And, it's a 20-minute read or a 10-minute read, but we'll stretch it to an hour and a half.
2 hours.
Yeah. So we do have several about this same one. So I'm going to kind of on the fly paraphrase a little bit. But Sam writes, "Insiders, I listened to Jim Vorl's article and your podcast. Reading his article really captured a lot of thoughts I've been having lately about IPAs. I'm somewhere between camp 1 and 3. And for those of you who may not remember, camp 1 was people who are like, yeah, I love IPAs. The more, the better. I'm very happy with the state of things. Camp 2 was, there's too many IPAs. This is not a good thing. I'm sick and tired of all these IPAs everywhere. And then camp 3 was, I think he said IPA agnostic is how he put it. There's a lot, but it's not that big a deal, kind of thing. So, and he says he likes, a variety of styles, but really kind of started his love of IPA started with his love of craft beer started with IPA, and ever since his first pour of Headhunter.
Wow.
Yes.
The unofficial sponsor of the show.
It's true.
They don't know it yet.
They don't know it yet. They don't give us anything yet. They certainly don't give us beer, and we've certainly asked multiple times
To buy it.
to buy it. I mean, hey, I'd pay to play. I'd say right now, just give me free beer, and I'll talk. I'll continue to talk you up.
Yeah.
What if they gave us free beer to not ever
Just
mention
stop
them
mentioning
again?
it.
I'd probably do that
Their
too.
sales have tanked since we started talking about it.
Exactly. So Sam says, I live in northwestern Pennsylvania, and I would consider it to be a below average craft beer market, at least to other cities that he's lived in. So he said during the pandemic, he started noticing that a lot of big name brewers started to maybe big name brewers. So that doesn't necessarily mean they're literally big, but they've got like kind of their name carries some importance in the beer geek world. Started sending stuff out to his market, and he thought it might have been, well, there's no draft, so they have to just can more, and send it out. And I think that was probably an accurate take on things, right? They had
Reasonable assumption.
yeah, they're making the same amount of beer, or they had already made the beer, and there's no draft because all the bars are closed, so it has to go into can, and maybe that's why it's starting to go to other markets. But he was saying Toppling Goliath, Other Half, and Lawson's Finest, to name a few, and they are all still regularly available in that area. He said a problem for him is that all of the beers from these breweries are entirely IPAs. He says nearly all of these are IPAs. So all the Toppling Goliath, the Other Half, the Lawson's Finest, and stuff like that. And he says he was at back in the day, he was at Beer Shares, and somebody, they split a single can of Lawson's that showed up he was in North Carolina, and in 2015, 2016, and everybody was freaking out to get to try to split this can by as many people as were there. And he says now, it's turds it up on the shelf in Erie, Pennsylvania.
That's what he said?
Yeah.
He literally said turds it up on the shelf?
No.
Oh, okay.
Now it sits on shelves in Erie, Pennsylvania. He says, initially I thought it was pretty cool getting all these new beers here. I purchased a couple when they first hit the market, but now I found myself mostly disinterested in all the homogeneity. Homogeneity. Thank you. I can't help but think this cooler I'm looking at in my local beer store packed full of out-of-market New England IPAs, many of which were canned multiple months ago, is a sign of our impending craft beer doom. I guess I'm beginning to enter camp 2. Cheers, Sam. Well, thank you, Sam. I think that's one letter.
It is something that I didn't think about when we were reading that article, that those categories can be heavily influenced by your location and the access to other beers. I think it's way easier to be one of the agnostic people in Chicago because I can come here, or I can, I can operate a brewery that doesn't make any IPAs currently, and I can find other breweries that do similar things. I don't know if there's many that make no IPAs, but being in where he was in northwestern Pennsylvania, different story.
Erie, PA, man,
Yeah.
and he is northwestern. He's in the far corner of that state,
Basically Ohio.
Yeah. Or basically Canada, right? Isn't it no? Mm-mm. Okay, maybe not. Okay,
I don't think so.
well, maybe we'll.
There's
just
a whole
look that up.
lake between, aren't they?
Yeah, it's right on Lake Erie. I would think so.
Canada?
Yeah, right there, dude.
It's not a geography pod.
It's right there.
Yeah, but you have to swim across the...
Lake Erie. I mean, it's close.
All right.
But it is also very close to Cleveland as well.
Yeah.
You might be... It's closer to Canada than it is to Cleveland, I'll put it to you that
It's
way.
probably easier to get to Cleveland.
If you don't have a boat.
Right.
let's just say we were both right. I was more right.
Welcome to the
I'm
geography episode.
kidding. Yeah. No, I would fail that. It's certainly not a poppin' market for craft beer. And the fact that there's Other Half and Lawson's and Toppling Goliath, I think, says a lot.
Well, it probably was a poppin' market at some point. It's not far from Great Lakes, the brewery. Like, there's probably a point where it was a better option for local beer than a lot of other parts of the country. But major metropolitan areas have just like outstripped that for sure.
Yes.
And like the advancements in the more surgical ways that some breweries like Other Half and breweries that have names like that can utilize distribution. I think it's much easier with the proliferation of stores as well to be able to send a small amount of beer to a place. And
yeah, I was going to get right into the next letter, but maybe no. I think you're right because I think there is a few things perhaps that are worth talking about. I don't think that's necessarily a good sign.
Oh, I think that is a good sign.
Yeah,
it's a reason for why things like this could happen. Like 15, 20 years ago, there's no way that a brewery could have made a name for itself as quickly without social media as Other Half had, you know?
Right.
So, it's
but
interesting.
Other Half is not the type of brewery, and no offense to Sam at all. In fact, it sounds like Sam might agree with me. Other Half was kind of built as a brewery that you would never find in Erie, Pennsylvania. Like, that's kind of their thing.
I don't think it's their thing anymore. I think there's still a little bit of perception of that, and that might have been how it started. But they're big, dude. They're real big, and they're pretty wide. But they're not that deep. Like, the new model isn't, okay, well, we're only going to be in 2 states, but we're going to really go after draft handles and stuff. When you have a brand like that, you just send as much beer as gets consumed there, and then if someplace really takes off, maybe you invest in it. But really, it's just sprinkle it around and let it put enough water on the sponge so the sponge is always wet, but don't oversaturate it, if that metaphor makes any sense.
Right. Now, do you think that hey, it's the dart players? Someone must have thrown a good dart.
They probably knocked the wall out so they can actually watch it better.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Place effing sucks.
Place stinks.
So how many McKellers have closed down now in the U.S.?
A lot of them.
I don't know
the
right?
actual number.
And you and I were talking about it when you were saying that it was because this, like the cachet of the quirky Danish beer doesn't really work now when everyone's so focused on local, right?
Well, it's certainly a reckoning from other allegations, and people that are aware of those probably choose to not buy from McKellar, but also that American craft beer specifically has gone so hard on locality and like closeness to where you consume it being one of the most important things, which is very true. And there's 10,000 breweries now, 9,000, 10,000 breweries. So the weird guy from Denmark who's kind of a jerk is not as enticing when like you're just looking at the shelves. Like, but it used to be back in the day, he had like the coolest labels, like the most interesting styles. They were experimenting a lot. Now it's just like, oh, okay, got it, fine.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it necessarily bodes well for some of these breweries that relative to how big they are. Like you say, they're big, right? Mm-hmm. Toppling Goliath, big. Yeah. Lawson's Finest, big.
Yeah.
And Other Half, big. I wonder how big they are. And
how big is big to you? How big does a place have to be before we're like, yeah, that's a big craft brewery?
30,000.
I think all 3 of those make way more than 30,000 barrels.
Okay.
I'm almost certain Lawson's does. I'm pretty sure Other Half makes quite a bit more than that. And all 3 of those I would put a lot of money on being more than 30,000.
Yeah. Okay. So they're big. Are they? You think bigger than 50,000?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
I don't know. Someone correct us if I don't know. That's probably where we're maxing those out, I would guess.
Yeah.
But 2 of those, at least Toppling Goliath and Lawson's are contract brewed, so they can be as big or as small as they need to be for that. I don't know what Other Half's situation is. as far as what their production actually is.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just curious if, if they're under 100,000 barrels, right?
Probably. I mean, none of them are showing up on like the top 50.
Right. So none of them are showing on the top 50.
But remember, the bottom of the top 50 is 90,000 barrels.
Okay, so maybe they're at 75,000 barrels, something like that. I guess that means they're just in all of Pennsylvania then. Like, I guess that makes more sense. Like, we are entirely in Pennsylvania. We've just covered the entire state.
No, I think it's that they're in any city that has more than 100,000 people. They probably send beer to in Pennsylvania. I don't think they're in like.
Yes.
I don't think they're trying to be in like rural Pennsylvania.
Right. True.
That's what I'm saying. That's not the model anymore. Where like New Glarus is like, we're just going to make a lot of beer and sell it all in Wisconsin at every grocery store and Wegmans you can get into. Now it's just find where it's going to flow easily, and like where you don't have to put a body because people are expensive.
There's only there's 96,000 people in the area. That's a pretty small town.
That was about right. About 100,000.
Right, pretty small town.
That's enough to send a couple pallets of beer every once in a while.
I guess so. Yeah, I guess so. Seems like that's yeah.
And there's more and more craft distributors that will work with that type of thing, right? Whereas like if the only model was stack it high and let it fly and like let's do repeat business on these 4 SKUs, that wouldn't allow for what they're trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious about it. I'm curious if they're going to markets that are big enough to take it, but also underserved by their local breweries' ability to package and distribute. Like, because I mean, do you think Lawson's, if Lawson's came to Chicago, would it matter at all? After the first month, nobody would care.
Probably not.
Nobody would
but
care
Chicago
about
is
that
a
beer.
different market.
Yeah, people do care about toppling Goliath.
In Connecticut, Lawson's is like the go-to grocery store, like craft brand. Like my parents' friends, that's what they drink when they drink craft beer.
Totally fine. And I'm sure other half is that in New York, or one of them.
Maybe.
But like as you start going further and further, you're starting to have this McKellar effect.
Sure.
And I think and this is specific to IPA. So I'm not talking about like we're drinking a Fontaflora Brutus right now, which is a
decoupage.
Yeah, beer decoupage of spontaneous ales. So like I'm not talking about this type of beer. I think this
very good.
It is very good. I think that can travel to other markets more easily than IPA can nowadays. I really think that as you start going further and further away, it becomes hard for those breweries to really move volume, except for a few. It becomes harder. Not impossible, but harder.
So that sentence could be interpreted as it's easier to move volume of beer decoupage in foreign markets than it is to move IPA. Is that what you meant it to sound like? Because that's what it sounded like to me.
Yeah, it is what I said, but I guess in my mind, I meant it.
Because I can tell you, it's not.
Right. I guess what I meant was all relative to how much you're trying to move. Like you're not trying to move 90,000 barrels of beer decoupage. But you might be trying to move some cases here, some cases there.
Right.
Where if your business model is cranking out 70,000 barrels a year, and it relies heavily, or let's just say significantly, on out of market, like sprinkling drops, like where it's like, okay, our model is we have to be able to put in 2 drops a year to Chicago, 2 drops a year to here, 2 drops a year there, and maybe quarterly drops to Erie, and stuff like that. I think that stuff is going to start drying up. I think those, quarterly drops are going to become twice a year drops, and it's
Right.
because the beer is just still going to be there.
Well, this is like one of those when Doug talks about lever pulling, right? Like I don't think Other Half ever intended to be sending beer to Erie in the first place, but if
That's what I said, and you said that is their model now, right? I said I think they're like the
right,
brewery
that's
that
their
isn't.
model now, but when you become the hottest brewery in the country, you change your expectations of what you want to get out of your brewery.
Okay.
I don't think they ever intended to be sending beer to Erie, Pennsylvania, but it's a place where they can send beer and sell beer, and it pulls through. So how long that goes on, who knows? But
Presumably pull through. I mean, I'm sure they do.
I'm sure they pull through
They're pretty.
enough.
They're pretty cool.
Yeah.
They still got some cachet.
I think I remember we're in Chicago. Chicago's a different beast than a lot of these places.
And it pulls here too.
Right. Well, there's also there's a very specific brewery culture in Chicago too. I was talking about this with Doug after our episode, where there are breweries that have like personalities and they really go for it with their branding and they try to be distinct. That's not the case in like a lot of cities. In a lot of cities of less than 100,000 people, there may be one brewery that even makes beer comparable to a brewery in Chicago. And so a brewery that has like really cool branding and really thoughtful like imagery along with beer that is highly regarded.
You're talking about Fatheads?
I'm talking about Fatheads.
Okay. I was just trying to. I assumed you were, but I just want to make sure
I'm
we're on
always
the same
talking
page.
about Fatheads.
Okay.
They're
or Hobbin'
They're just
Frog.
going to be sending truckloads of Benjamin Danklin. No, I mean a brewery that is actually like has an aesthetic and has a vibe to it.
Fatheads.
Is something that is novel in a lot of those places.
Yes. Yeah. I mean,
and like it's not going to be mainstream, right? But it will find the bottle shops. It will maybe go to some grocery stores where enough people that are into craft beer and have heard of Other Half will buy it. Like my dad walked into a liquor store in Connecticut with the Rate Beer Top 100 list one time and asked if they had West Veteran and Zombie Dust. So there's a lot of people like that who are like, oh, I've heard of Other Half. They were in the New York Times, and so they'll buy it. I don't know how many repeat customers, how much of a sustainable business model that is, but it's certainly something that's working currently.
I know there's a lot of breweries who are looking to expand into other markets now. It's something that was not really a thing. It was a huge thing. Then it wasn't a thing, and now it's a thing again.
Crazy how that happens.
It's crazy how that happens. And to me, I always look at it as, well, why is that? Why are you sending beer to Erie, Pennsylvania? Is it because you want to be in that market now? Or is it because you have this beer and it has to go somewhere, and Erie's a place where it can go?
It's both. I mean, I doubt that they're sitting there like, oh, crap, we have 80 pallets of New England IPA we have to sell in the next, 5 days or it's going to go bad. Just send it to Erie. I think they make beer intending that some of it's going to go to Erie and some of it's going to go to Akron and some of it's going to go to Des Moines and some of it's going to go to Chicago and some of it's going to go to Detroit. That's their model now. Mm-hmm. And they don't have a rep here or anything, right? Like none of those brands. Does Toppling Goliath have a rep? Maybe because we're closer.
No, but they do visit the market.
Sure.
Yeah, they visit the market, but they don't, as far as I know. And it could be. It's so sad, but Max and Steven could be listening to this and just be like, face palming, be like, Chris, come on, man.
They're not listening to this.
Yeah, no, I know. That's the one saving grace. No, they definitely make market, they stop
Sure.
by.
But it's a whole different thing than when in 2008 Deschutes was going to open Chicago or something, or 2012 or whenever that was.
Yeah.
And they had stacks at Binny's, and they hired the best sales rep.
Or when Stone had 15 events and
Right.
it was everywhere.
That's not the way that those things have to work anymore.
Right.
So
I guess we'll see.
yeah.
Very, very. I'm already thinking about what maybe some of my predictions will be for the end of year show.
Ooh.
Yeah.
What was it, Chris Swan Kenobi? What was your...
Quinobi, yeah. Obi Chris Quinobi.
Yeah, right.
Rolls off the tongue.
Yeah.
Obi Quiz. Obi Chris. Help me, Obi Chris Quinobi. You're my only hope.
Memorable. What's up, dude? How you doing?
I need to have a secondary name. That way.
Ben Kenobi.
Right. Do you think he
Chris
means
Kenobi.
old Yeah, someone Quinobi.
Oh, Chris Quinn.
Yeah.
Your secondary name is your name.
Do you think? Yes. Do you think he means Chris Quinobi? Old Chris Quinobi? But anyway, we have another letter, and it's called the IPA Echo Chamber. And
Can you put some echo on it?
yeah,
Do we have effects?
Echo. Whoa,
He's
whoa.
He's shaking his head no. We don't have echo.
What are you talking about?
We don't have echo on the board.
He just put the board. He just put it on.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that was great. Good job, Serge.
Serge is like, I've taken all the capacity of this board for effects, and I've made all the effects fades. They're all just various types of fades.
Yeah. The long fade.
Yeah, the audio star fade.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
The star wipe.
The star wipe but an audio.
Star wipe and we're out.
Yeah. Matt Gary wrote us a
tome.
Yeah, a tome called the
Not a
IPA
phantom.
Echo Chamber. This one's long. It's almost as long as Jim Borrell's article. And it's going to take a while to go through it. So,
Buckle up.
yeah, buckle up. So Matt writes, "Hi, Chris," and he didn't say it that way. He just said, "Hi, Chris and Mike."
Please don't annotate everything like that for the entire.
Okay.
Just read it. No,
Okay. Hi, Chris and Mike. Thanks for devoting your time to creating and sharing your podcast. I've listened for many years and often find myself joining the conversation by grumbling myself. That's actually how I started. I am going to annotate now. That's how I started this show.
That's how most of these episodes come to life. That we're
Yes.
just grumbling at each other about something.
Yeah. But the Insiders Roundtable, the original version of it, started by me grumbling to other podcasts and being like, I'm just going to do my own.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go, Matt. Start your own, and I'd love to be invited on. So your discussion of Jim Vorl's article on breweries surrendering to IPA was great. I found myself grumbling more than usual while listening
Is
to
he
your
grumbling
latest.
at us or grumbling with us?
Let's find out.
Yeah, all right.
I found myself grumbling more than usual while listening to your last podcast, the IPA Takeover, and your insights inspired me to share some unsolicited notes on the topic. My life and career in the beer business have given plenty of time to develop curmudgeonly hot takes on any beer topic. That's my type of guy.
We should get this guy on.
I know. So, not sure if this adds to conversation. I think this is kind of interesting, this part of the letter, so I will read it. I'm not sure that this adds to the conversation, but I think I have a unique perspective on the beer business. At risk of putting you to sleep, here's a quick recap of my life in beer. Don't worry, we're used to doing that. I started when my folks opened a brewery in Portland, Maine in 1986, where I learned packaging, brewing, sales, etc. For those of you who may wonder what brewery that is, his last name is Geary, so maybe look that up. Not realizing how good I
Doxed this guy.
no, because he signed it. He signed it, Matt Geary. I looked because that's how I refer to people. Not realizing how good I had it, I moved to the West Coast and worked in a number of industries. I eventually got back to beer, working for the Maine Brewers Guild, and then landed a job selling beer in the Pacific region for a European brewery. When my mom passed in 2013, I found myself owning half of a brewery. We made the painful decision to sell rather than prop up a brewery that was built in the 80s and 90s to service a regional market that had changed drastically. I can only imagine.
Yeah.
I suffered through negotiations with a private buyer and had the not-so-pleasant experience of ending relationships with other long-term distributors. The buyer gave me an offer to stay, but I instead chose to work as a beer educator in Denver. Several years later, I took a role in innovations, quote-unquote, at the corporate HQ in Chicago, where I currently work. Local guy. Needing more craft beer in my life, I now also moonlight at a local craft beer retailer / bar in the northwest burbs of Chicago. Not at the best one, because I'm not in the northwest burbs, I guess. But anyway, he doesn't work here. So
Okay.
There it was. Hold on.
Your mosquito?
Yeah, the mosquito landed on my effing hand. You son of a bitch. I'm going to get him. He's way up there now. All right, he ran away.
Coward.
He was on my thumb.
He didn't even touch me.
Probably that means he's eating me, like, alive already.
He's playing with you.
Yeah, he is. Okay. It took a lot longer than 1 minute. It took an hour for me to notice. Okay. Now I feel like he's everywhere. I'm like itching myself.
I think he's on you. No, I'm just kidding.
No, don't. Don't look around. I am not looking. Okay. Okay. So now he has a whole outline of why he thinks IPAs are everywhere. He has a why they're everywhere and a who is really to blame. And I've looked at it, and I think he's
it's the customer every
pretty good.
time.
Yeah, yeah, it's the customer. Why are IPAs everywhere? He says the main reasons are flavor. Mm-hmm. The hops have a strong flavor, easily recognizable.
Recognizable and familiar yet unique to beer, right? Like those fruity flavors are familiar.
And then it says why the fruity, juicy flavors, because fruit beverage and soda account for 25 to 35% of non-alc consumption, and it's easy for mass. It's an easy flavor for the masses. Low bitterness and fruity is just it's easy and it sells. He also says another reason that they're everywhere is erosion of brand loyalty. Without brand loyalty, trial at a grocery is style based rather than brand based. I think that's entirely true. I also think that IPAs, and I've said this on this show, the flavor is totally right as well. I even think before it came to dominate, one of the reasons that IPA was the most popular was because it was easy to pick out that trait in beer,
right,
and feel like and to demonstrate to yourself that you were learning about this thing that you're interested in. Like, oh, when I drink a beer now, I can taste the hops. I can taste one of the ingredients that was used to make this beer. And everybody wants that. Like everybody, if they're like way into, baseball, like if they can discern that one of the pitches is like a slider and the other one's a fastball just by looking at it, like that makes that like, oh, that's
deepens
cool.
your appreciation
I'm learning about it,
It's also just like it's simple to understand as well, right? Like we added these hops, it made it taste like this because that's what those hops taste like. Whereas like fermentation flavor, it's like, well, we added this yeast and then one of the metabolic pathways created an ester that kind of tastes like bubble gum. Like that's way more abstract than it is. Like, no, these hops, when you smell them, they smell like oranges. And then when you put them in the beer, it smells like oranges. So it's an easy thing to be like, oh, I get it. I totally understand.
Yes. So I think that's definitely part of it. And then the flavor itself is one that just we like. We like fruity flavors, and hops have been getting more and more and more fruity. Where before they were piney and grapefruit. I mean, grapefruit is a fruit, but it's like
the challenge,
a polarizing fruit. That's kind of going away. Erosion of brand loyalty. I think he's dead on with this as well. Trial becomes brand based, and then he has even a sub point to this sub point of erosion of brand loyalty. He says, I don't know, maybe that all craft beer is the same. I don't know, maybe that all craft beer is the same. We will start to see more brand loyalty as the pendulum swings back. Who knows? He says another reason that IPAs ever, this is an interesting one, syndicated research echo chamber, he says. Future decisions based on what's already happened, not what is going to happen.
The Doug Valicky paradox.
Interesting. Shots fired.
I love you, Doug. I'm just kidding.
He said, and this the sub note on this is product diversity is cleaved as IPA outperforms other styles. As IPA earns more shelf space to other styles, it looks better when planning for the next set. So it's just like I guess maybe a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like it's taking up more space, so it's doing better because it has more room. So it does. Right. So it outperforms.
It's exponential. Which is like, oh man, I wonder if this has ever happened to beer before in America. Has it? Oh wait, why was everything a light lager for like the 10 years leading up to craft beer's explosion?
Because people liked them, and it grew and became like it just got too crazy. So I like this idea as well. I think we could talk about this research echo chamber.
Let's get down Bixalon and yell at him about it.
Yeah, exactly. But I do think that it will certainly let you be on trend, but it won't let you like. Oh yeah, I think I'm being bitten. It won't let you lead trends necessarily. Matt, he's laughing because I'm like scratching my back.
I have a friend who is the alcohol buyer for a local. Well, it's not just a local, but a chain of like kind of forward-thinking convenience stores. And at one point, and they're definitely a technology-driven company and like a analytics-driven company. And at one point, he was asked, "Why is every single wine that we have a cab?" He's like, "Well, that's what sells the best. So that's what the numbers said we should put on." They're like, "Yeah, but then we can't introduce people to other stuff." It's like, "Well, then we can't just be a straight analytics company." And so they specifically stepped away from just being specifically, here's what sells the best, here's what we should put in the set, to be more of a curated place. And
bravo.
Yeah. And
I think it's good.
Yeah.
And now they're out of business. No, they're not.
They're
doing
they
very
are
well.
thriving.
No, they're thriving.
Right.
So I think, and product diversity is cleaved. It's a great way to put it. Is cleaved as IPA outperforms other styles. That's exactly what they were saying was happening to at Sierra Nevada. Mm-hmm. And when I went there, it is.
You asked the tough questions.
I asked
the people
the tough
working at the
question.
bar, right?
No, of the person.
Why do you only
giving
have IPAs?
The VIP tour, who frankly was as knowledgeable as any tour guide. This was not a normal tour guide,
Ken
I would
Grossman.
imagine. It was Ken Grossman, yeah. And we were in his jet at the time. We were just circling the brewery.
He was pointing at it. That's the brewery.
Yeah, he was just circling it and then telling him to run the
gas out.
Yeah, just gun the engine.
So we're gonna get sued for slander.
Yeah, no, that didn't really happen. In case you guys didn't know, I wasn't really on Eastern Airlines, just like doing the equivalent of like air donuts over the brewery.
You got to fly Eastern Airlines?
Yeah, I know.
They shouldn't have let you do that.
I know, I got my miles up. But they said, like, this person said, yeah, we introduced this beer, and it's like, it's going crazy. It's selling so well. So they are outperforming other styles, but I guess at some point, then there's nothing left other than IPA. And, I guess that is an opportunity then as well. But, okay, so we're going to keep going. So that was the syndicated research echo chamber. Next one is ticker victims. Even those retailers interested in getting ahead of the market don't have much to work with other than their own sales data and less objective resources like Untapped, where beers are rewarded for falling into scope. Something like, oh, this is an interesting, I didn't read this before. This is a very interesting equation. Flavor intensity plus marketing in brackets times style equals rating.
You left out ABV. Maybe that's power to flavor intensity.
Yeah. Flavor intensity plus marketing combined. You take that score, you times that by style, and that equals your rating.
That's pretty.
I mean, it's pretty good.
Yeah. It's pretty accurate.
And then his next one. So that's ticker victims. The next is share of shelf shifts. Seltzer has eaten into beer their share of the shelf. Wine and spirits ready to drink and single serve have also eaten into the beer coolers. So there's just less, I guess, space, and they just have to kind of boil it down, and that just leaves the IPAs. And large format shoppers. Now, this is an interesting thing. He says grocery does not drive trial of specialty flavors. However, it does drive trial through variety packs. Variety packs simply have 3 core beers, and the 4th is based especially in nationally distributed brands on syndicated market research. Grocery beer consumers are shopping for value and category. Craft beer commodity shopping would certainly help large format stores that could slap their own labels on a hazy IPA and take share at the expense of smaller margins, price cuts, hoping to make it back on volume. So large format shoppers.
Remember that picture I sent you?
I thought he was thinking large format bottles. I'm so out of it. Okay.
Remember that picture I sent you of the Kirkland brand Citra Session IPA?
That's right. Yeah, tell him about it. And then
it was just a 24 pack of, I think I have to pull it up, but it was Kirkland branded Citra on the Kirkland brand, like 12 or 24 pack of Session IPA.
There you go. Like what is it? 2018? It's crazy.
These idiots, don't they know it's supposed to be a haze?
Here, let's take a break real quick.
And we're back. Welcome back to the Beer Temple Podcast. I am your co-host, Mike Schlau of Is Was Brewing. I'm here with your other co-host, Chris Quinn of the Beer Temple, and the Fade Master himself.
Fade Master.
Serge. Mm-hmm. Great fades.
Fading. He's actively fading right now.
I think we're coming in off of me getting cut off mid-sentence, actually.
Yeah, I think we're really... Yeah. Talk about a fade.
Not that I was saying anything important, but we're talking a little bit about reading some letters about a recent episode we did about Jim Vorel's article about why IPA
another
is
IPA episode, essentially. So
basically,
Matt Gary,
our content, our content is essentially the same thing as IPA, where we just talk about how there's too many IPAs.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right,
that's totally fine. That is okay.
That's fine. Yeah. Cultural critics.
So we just got through the entire part about why IPAs are everywhere. And he said flavor, erosion of brand loyalty, syndicated research, echo chamber, ticker victims, share of shelf shifts, and large format shoppers, meaning large format store shoppers, not people who are looking to buy their beer in large format.
No, but large format meaning multiple cans. Like not that it's a 22-ounce bottle, but that it's 12 packs and variety packs.
Oh, okay. Yes. Okay. Sorry.
But also in big stores.
Yes. No, you're right. Okay.
Both.
So, the next part is who is really to blame? And he says the first one, tickers with no brand loyalty. This leads to not necessarily, I don't know if he's putting them in order, but he says tickers with no brand loyalty. This leads to a market where style is more important than brand. Why is that bad? Because we end up seeing, quote unquote, innovation in only the styles that sell the most according to syndicated market research. Of course, this will then ignore all the small, nimble, specialized breweries, but we're not talking about that here, he says.
Right.
And then he says, because of the tickers, you have inflated scores for beers in 3 categories. Hazy, juicy, BA pastry stouts, and smoothie sours. For hazy, juicy, he really says hazy, juicy IPA, double IPA, triple IPA from breweries that use Pacific Northwest or New Zealand hops. Dead.
I mean, yeah.
Dead on pastry stouts and smoothie sours. Yeah, and he says, I'm trying really hard not to complain loudly about all three of these styles. Yeah. And then he says, here's his next reason.
There's like the Nickelback of beer styles.
Right?
Like everyone says they hate them, and yet they sell 1 million copies.
It's true. I think people actually listened. Well, people actually drink this stuff too. I mean, maybe people who like
we don't know
say
if
they
drink
hate it.
We know they buy it.
True. But there's a warning now. His second bullet point under who is really to blame is it's a warning. This is probably an unpopular opinion, but I think on-premise retailers operating in 2010 to 2017 share a significant part of the blame. I'll just read the whole thing. I will, but before I will, read the whole thing. This part I have not read because I stopped at this point because I
completely agree.
Completely agree. And it's something I don't know if I've ever talked about on this show, which I can't believe opinion that I have that I have not talked about over and over again on this show. There are probably gaping holes in my logic, but I wonder who started the movement away from brand loyalty. I'd argue that loyalty allowed breweries to be creative and have a ready market to drive trial with their experiments. Was the retailer or the consumer who abandoned brands first? Or were retailers just trying to spread the love as best as possible as the market grew? I sympathize with classic beer bars that propped up many craft breweries in the early days, but weren't they also guilty of abandoning loyalty? And now those brewers who got in at the right time got the benefit from beer bars and are now taking customers from those bars with their own tap rooms.
Michael Roper just walked in the door.
Yeah, there's no easy answer, and I think I managed to talk myself in circles on this one. And then he's got a sub-bullet point on that one. It says, I don't mean to argue that all brewers deserve brand loyalty, and only the old guys... hold on, I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. I don't mean to argue that all brewers deserve loyalty and only the old guys deserve to be on the tap list with unsaleable beers, but just that I believe the drive for new drove us directly toward the world of give me the IPA. You're going to have to pause it again.
I mean, that's one of those it takes two to tango type things where... breweries were making a proliferation of styles, consumers were demanding it, and the person that needs to present it to them were those on-premise retailers.
I'm sorry. I will be sneezing all night.
You're allergic to the mosquitoes, too?
I think there's something, some kind of allergy has got me going.
I think they actually cleaned this room a little bit.
That's what it is. I'm allergic to the lack of dust. Okay. Sorry about that. I'm back. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's like it takes two or maybe three to tango in this part where for a certain period of time, it was making up for lost time of not having a plethora of options and might have overcorrected.
Yes, I agree. I think so we have not talked about this, this ticker culture with no brand loyalty. We have talked about that, but about the bars, I mean, I remember like 2010 to 2017. And those were like, the salad years of craft beer, at least the first half of that. And
well, we all agree that craft beer stopped being cool in 2016.
Right. So I think the best beer bars did have some brand loyalty, I'll say. Like the best beer bars in Chicago at that time, which were, I would say, Hopleaf, Map Room, Sheffield's. You would have like, Clark Street Ale House probably was still kind of maybe going somewhat
Fountainhead
strong.
Was a great beer bar.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. Yeah,
that might have been a different generation.
Slightly later. I'm talking about like more on the 2010 side of things.
Quenchers.
So those places definitely had some brand loyalty. I think Patty Long's I would put there
for sure.
too. And they definitely have brand loyalty. And then they would rotate some stuff. In fact, there was a second group of bars that opened up. And I think the Beer Temple was closer aligned with this second generation, frankly, which was like and we're naming bars that a lot of people who are not in Chicago are not going to know, but like the small bars and a lot of the ampersand bars and stuff like that.
Where'd you put local option in that? That would be the first one, or the second one? Because they had a different thing going on. That was
They had something different.
It was more of like a vibe of European things. Maybe.
Yeah, that was a little different. So, but definitely new, but they were pulling from a different, like, I think, pool.
Yeah.
And the group that came in and wanted to be the new Hop Leaf, the new Sheffields, was like just turn and burn on just like new all the time, new. I know some places like they wanted to buy like Sixtels because they just wanted to turn and keep those, like they wanted to have many taps and they just wanted to rip through it. And when we opened the Beer Temple, we wanted to have a combination of that. I don't think we've done, frankly, the best job at that. We have
to what
we have the
direction?
Mars Jungle Boogie line.
Got the scratch line.
We have a scratch line, and right now we have Honkers / Sierra Nevada Pale Ale.
Tried to have it.
Yeah,
Sierra Nevada didn't, or the distributor didn't let you.
Yeah, it was not. Yes, that is how I would.
At least the way that you wanted to do it.
Right. Exactly. And the way that was agreed it would be done. Sorry, I'm itchy again. My nose is itchy. And then we were also going to have a spontaneous line, which we keep pretty darn spontaneous to this day, which is pretty cool.
A Pilsner line.
That's a style line, though. That's different.
Right.
So loyalty.
Well, how's that different than a spontaneous line?
Well, I think the only truly loyalty lines we have are the Jungle Boogie line, and really, I think what Matt is talking about is really our scratch line, where it's always going to be scratch. We have scratch on; it's always on that line, and that's just what it is. There used to be that sort of stuff. Like you used to see it in.
You're saying you're a tied house.
Yeah, exactly. No, but like, if sometimes you still see that in like hotels and stuff. Like, oh, we have the Sam Adams seasonal line,
Right.
Like right there. But that's like one of the last places you still see that sort of thing.
Airports.
And I remember, like places like Sheffield's would always have Founders on, and then when Founders had something like super cool, like it would show up there. And it was because it was on, all the time. Now, Patty Long's always had Pilsner Urquell. They used to, before that, have Trumer, and then they made the bad decision to drop Trumer and go to Pilsner Urquell. So when they started, putting 7-day-old Pilsner Urquell on draft and bringing it into Chicago, who was getting it? A few places. One of them was Patty Long's, and I mean, I think that's that stuff is. I think that's kind of like how it should work, Sure. I think that's better than we have this rare beer and I want to serve it at the, I don't know, like whatever is like the untapped, whichever bar has the most bottle cap. I don't know how they do it, but I don't think that's the right way to do it either. And I just don't. I never liked that kind of with the bars either, where it's just kind of like new. It's tough. It is tough, and I do think the bars are to blame. I never thought about it as potentially being what led to the tickers, kind of like that style. No, not causing tickers, but like that culture to spread. Somebody just won a darts game. What do you think, Mike?
It certainly is the case that on-premise bars had to make the decision to put a bunch of different beers on tap, but I don't know if that's who's to blame. I mean, they couldn't do that if breweries weren't making a bazillion different IPAs, and they wouldn't have done it if people didn't want to drink a bazillion different IPAs. Mm-hmm. So it depends on the ethos of the on-premise location, the bar that wants to do it. If it's a bar that wants to commit to having a bunch of different styles and a place that people can like explore and try different things, then sure. But if you're a beer bar that's just like, we're here to move volume, or not even that, just like we're here to sell beer and make money, the ones that are going to move the fastest, we're going to keep doing that, right? We're going to keep buying the things that people want to buy from us. So
Sure.
I don't.
But I do like this kind of chicken and egg scenario that is being posited here, where it's like tickers and on-premise bars during that era kind of like helped get the ball rolling for this thing where there's no brand loyalty anymore. It's style loyalty. And we see it all the time. I mean, there's people who come in, they want the latest hazy from probably one of 5. They have a 6-pack of breweries, and the 6th one is their mixed bag. So one of these 5 or anything else that you have in that you recommend that looks cool.
Yeah.
And they want that style, they want that flavor, they want that new. Really, what they want is that new.
Yeah. When we were reading through this earlier, I assumed that this section was going to be more angled towards the tap room and the fact that breweries put in 20-line draft systems in their tap room. And then to service all of that, they had to make a bunch of IPAs because they can't, there aren't 20 different styles that are going to pull through at the same rate. Mm-hmm. I was at not to keep the other half thing going, but I was there a couple of times in New York, and it was 18 IPAs or versions of pale ales or IPAs or double IPAs, a Pilsner, and maybe one other style or an Imperial Stout or something. And that is what I thought this was that would be more of a put the more onus on that, where like you shouldn't have put a 20 line system in your brewery where you can only make 4 beers a week, like
right,
and where like everyone wants to buy IPAs from you. So then that becomes you go to the IPA brewery. So I also have a tough time. I would never blame a bar for any choices they make, because it's really hard to run a bar, and you have to be able to sell the beer you're buying. So I don't know if this is one that I would hop on board.
Well, I'm trying to walk back and I guess I don't know if I'm walking it back, but I'm trying to think about how we do it now, and I think maybe because of where we're in, the spot that we're in, brand loyalty becomes difficult if you're dealing with breweries that are so heavily IPA focused.
Well, if you're dealing with breweries that don't have consistent brands either, right? Like it's not, if we're talking about brand loyalty and the brewery is the brand, that's one thing. But if we're talking about like old school brand loyalty, where I'm a Boston lager drinker, like that died for craft beer consumers around this time. But I think it's hard to put that blame on bars.
Yeah, maybe I'm thinking more brand/brewery loyal.
That still exists for sure. It's
Yeah.
not as like simple as I'm a Coors or I'm a Miller or I'm a Bud guy.
Yeah.
But there are absolutely people who are Phase 3 people or Hop Butcher people or off-color people. It just is just not that they're like, I only drink Apex or I only drink Double Grid or I only drink pixel density.
I mean, it's interesting. I mean, this sentence that Matt writes, this is, I'd argue that loyalty, and what he's saying is the brand loyalty that used to exist in on-premise locations, that loyalty allowed breweries to be creative and have a ready market to drive their experiments, like their trials. And was it the retailer or the consumer that abandoned brands first? I mean, that's what I was saying before. Maybe the chicken or the egg, or were retailers just trying to spread the love as possible?
I think it was the breweries.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I obviously have a biased opinion. I worked at Pipeworks, so we would make 7 new beers in a week sometimes. Mm-hmm. So,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the beer bar to blame on that one, or if it's that they had people liked Pipeworks and we wouldn't be able to present them with, hey, we have Ninja versus Unicorn all the time in 2014.
Right.
It would be like, well, we made this thing with black tea, we made this other thing with bergamot, we made this other thing with I don't know, like a different double IPA, and we made an imperial stout. Like,
right.
If you don't have the option to buy the brand that is most known from the brewery, you can't buy it.
Yeah.
So I this is one where I have a tough time saying that the on-premise bars are to blame for this proliferation. Like
Well, I think
they can
this-
only work with what they are, what's available.
Well, that's what I'm kind of
and
getting
they can
at
only
now.
work with what actually gets poured over the bar, what gets ordered.
Well, I think what Matt was maybe saying, and what I was kind of realizing, was that's kind of how it used to be, and you and I are talking now about how it is now, because I don't think it is really possible to have a diverse list in many situations and be brand loyal. If, for example, Lagunitas is, as was one of the breweries mentioned, because we just harp on Sierra Nevada so much, let's use the other one. The Lagunitas, they used to have, if you had a Lagunitas handle, you were having a whole bunch of different styles throughout the year. Now it's just going to be IPA. So how many IPA lines are you going to have if you have a Sierra Nevada line and you have a Lagunitas line and you have other half line? Okay, well now we've got 3 IPA lines. So that's not really possible to be brand loyal that way. So you can be maybe, or even brewery loyal. I'm sorry.
I didn't understand that.
Okay, so if you wanted to have like your Lagunitas handle, this isn't brand, but it's a brewery handle. So you have a Lagunitas handle, you have a Sierra Nevada handle, and you have an other half handle. Other half's not old enough, so let's just take the other 2. In 2010, with those 2 handles, you could easily have throughout the year 10 different beer styles that would go through those handles. And that would give you some diversity in your offerings and stuff like that. Now, today, those would just be 2 rotating IPA handles. I mean,
Right.
it would still be rotating, but you'd be getting essentially the same style of beer, with maybe 1 or 2 exceptions per year per handle.
Right, but I think this would be an argument against what he's saying. Is that what you're saying is that breweries have so condensed their offerings into being seasonal IPAs that the
Yes.
on-premise retailers couldn't be
brewery loyal anymore.
Right,
If they want to
so-
offer a variety, because what we do now is we try to be stylistically broad, and
Right, sorry, not to interrupt you, but
No, go for it.
that doesn't sound like the point he was making.
Oh,
The point
okay.
he was making seemed to be that this was driven by the on-premise buyers or on-premise purveyors. What you're saying is that it's not. It's driven by what's available from the breweries, and maybe that handcuffed the on-premise purveyors in a way that they didn't.
No, I'm saying something slightly different. I'm saying that in today's market, it's difficult to be brand loyal. I'm not saying it's not because of that. The cause of that issue wasn't the bars to begin with. I'm not saying it wasn't. I'm not saying it was. I'm saying whether it was or was not, now it is very difficult to be brand loyal because there's just fewer styles out there. I mean, if you wanted to have an amber, it's
more difficult to be brand loyal if you want to be a place that has a plethora of options because certain brands have become so homogeneous in their portfolio.
Sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Right.
Okay.
So that's what I meant.
But that to me sounds like a brewery problem. That bars would like to be more brand loyal, but the brands themselves went away from their ability to do that. Like I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, Sheffield's used to have a rotating Sierra Nevada handle. They didn't have Pale. They had a rotating handle. So they would have the Southern Hemisphere. They'd have the Estate. They'd have the Fresh Hop. They'd have maybe Bigfoot. They'd have stuff like that. Keller Weiss they would put on. And it would always be, something, new. Sometimes they would do those collabs that they did, like Life and Limb, I think it was called.
Oh, yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. So they would have these things coming through the Sierra Nevada handle, and now it would be, I guess you could go from Pale to Torpedo to Hazy Little Thing to Hazy Big Thing, or whatever it's called, to the Citrus Little Thing. Like, all those things are...
A lot of what you were mentioning that would have been on that Sierra Nevada handle before were also IPAs. Don't get that wrong. There are certainly more options, but I think the bigger problem is that most breweries are that now.
Yeah.
Like most breweries, their rotating options are shades of IPA.
They did the same thing at Sheffield's with Lagunitas, and it was not all IPAs. It was all over the place. In fact, there were multiple handles. They probably had a Pils or an IPA, and then also the brown sugar, the censored, the shutdown. It
was an IPA, though. Wasn't
the hairy eyeball.
Was it red ale?
Yeah, a hoppy red ale.
Mm-hmm. Which was also just nowadays, if we saw that, we would just call that an IPA.
It was like a huge imperial red ale. Like it was.
Sure.
Yeah. What about Three Floyds? Three Floyds had a huge variety of styles.
I think they're one of the originals of where make a bunch of different pale ales.
As they're maybe year rounds, but like they
used to make a mild year round too, though.
Yeah, but they had like Brian Boru. They had a
right. That's fair.
They had an Irish red called Black Sun. They had
Scottish ale. Mm-hmm. Robert the Bruce.
Yes, they had a Alpha Claus, which is a super hopped up porter.
Right.
They had a lot of stuff. I mean, they had a whole bunch of different styles. I'm sure I could sit and think about it. But, if you had a rotating Floyd's handle, a lot of them would be double IPAs or IPAs. No doubt about it.
Right. But there would be a Jinx Proof. There would be a Robert the Bruce. There would be what was the mild called?
Gorchfock they would put out. There would be, it was called...
Big Titty Sphinx Assassin.
Yes. Oh my gosh, the one with the Jester on it. Why cannot...
That's the mild. Pride and Joy.
Pride and Joy. Yeah. There would be stuff like that in there.
Right. But again, this is breweries making less things. This isn't bars not... Maybe it was bars not carry them is why the breweries started making less things. But
give us one of the IPAs. Like maybe it was one of those. We don't want your hairy eyeball.
Maybe, but I don't know.
Okay. Very interesting, very thought-provoking.
Yeah.
We have to cut it off there just because, or we should cut it off there because this is the sort of stuff that Mike and I will just talk about forever. And we have one
subscribe
more.
To the Patreon. You can listen to our inane ramblings.
Exactly.
Just get a live feed of the two of us talking.
No, it's just like we'll butt dial, and it'll just be there, and you can just hear
we'll
us.
call you, and you'll have to listen to us.
Exactly. Oh, somebody else just threw a dart. That was a good dart. Okay, So now we have one from electronic letter from Jeremy. The letter is titled "The Next Phase of IPA," and he says, "Hi, Chris and Mike. I'm listening to your IPA Doomsday episode and trying to optimistically think about how this trend could continue." Somebody's angry. Somebody just threw something at a door.
Oof.
Yeah, right.
Kind of scared
All
me,
right.
to be honest.
I'm listening to your IPA Doomsday episode and trying to optimistically think about how this trend could continue. As IPA has proliferated and swallowed up other styles, i.e. a hoppy saison becomes a farmhouse IPA.
I haven't really seen that. Have you seen that actually happen? Have you seen farmhouse IPAs?
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
I haven't.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah. What are the odds that the next trend of IPA is quote-unquote low-hop IPAs that are simply other styles of ale with the IPA name but no significant hoppiness or bitterness? Furthermore, just like it was microbrews in a previous generation, will craft beer simply be known as IPA in the future? Are we moving in the direction of Coke in Texas where someone asks, what kind of IPA do you want? And you say, I'll have a porter. Thanks, Jeremy. Very funny. I like that. Like it's kind of like, what is the lowest? How far can we regress with this IPA proliferation where it becomes like Kleenex?
Right.
You know, I don't know if it would never be called low hop IPA, but it could be something that essentially does the same thing.
I mean, there is some sort of kernel of truth in that, right? Now that everything in craft beer for most non-enthusiasts is defined by its relationship to hops, and and so I don't think it would ever be sold as low hop IPA, but it maybe it would, or like there'd be some sort of verbiage we haven't thought of yet, like cold IPA that we didn't think would happen for like a non-hoppy beer, but in the context of IPA. So.
Right.
Very, very possible. Unfortunately, we'll have to ask Doug. I'm sure.
Unhoppy IPA.
Yeah,
is basically
unhopped IPA.
Right. Or like I mean, the thing is, what they would call it was probably a kettle hopped IPA or a kettle, like they would call it something different, which essentially mean it has a much more toned down, rounder, different type of hop character. And it means it isn't dry hopped. It isn't this. It isn't that. And they would come up with some catchy name.
It's also interesting that hops used to mean bitterness, and hops don't mean bitterness anymore to most people. IPA doesn't mean bitterness. It means like a juicy. And by most people, I mean like people buying beer at the grocery store. Like IPA to most people that are younger than 50 now means like kind of like probably a hazy, juicy, citrusy thing.
Right. Maybe
Whereas
it's like
it used
early
to mean
edition
like
IPA.
Oniony and garlicky and bitter and maybe some citrus, but piney and resinous. It doesn't mean that anymore. So it could be like
I like what you're saying.
Thank you. Yeah. I make some salient points on this podcast. I don't know if that was one of them, but and so what if there's like a mimosa style beer that's an unhopped IPA because it tastes like orange juice?
Right, exactly. I mean, I think that's probably where it's going. I'm curious if you could literally call beers IPAs that are. I mean, what would IPA? I guess you could go in multiple directions. I do like this idea of like kettle hopped IPA, early edition IPA, or something like that, where you're basically just saying like it's not going to have that same.
Yeah, that's too nerdy though. But like,
no, I know it is, but like they're going to come up with a much more clever way of saying that.
Hot IPA.
Hot IPA.
We did cold.
Right.
Let's get back to hot IPA.
But like a way of saying that it's going to be a restrained hop character while also throwing IPA in there. Like that's the thing that Jeremy was talking about that I found
like light,
intriguing, that I just like to think about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Did we do light IPA already? I mean,
Probably.
lighthearted existed, right?
Yeah.
That was like the low-cal IPA. That was going to be everywhere. Remember when that was like the next big trend was the sub 100 calorie IPA?
Right.
That really took off.
Yeah, it did. It was called like Fruity Seltzers.
It just no, it just
And it
didn't
did
take off
take
at
off.
all.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't an IPA though. It was a completely different thing.
No, I know. I
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
I mean, maybe that is like the limitations, right? Where when you try to take IPA also probably means flavor. Like to go back to the first point of that longer email, it means flavor and it means intensity in some ways. So to try to be like, this is a light IPA that's going to be like something that's as refreshing, it's like it just is an oxymoron to people, where like they want it to be a little bit heavier, and that's why seltzer that is just fruity is taking some of that space that they thought the 100-calorie IPA could take up, that just didn't.
Right. Or I wonder if there could be that would take so much work for there to be a catch-all that lets somebody know that it isn't an IPA. Because I do think people are getting. I mean, we were sitting
non-IPA.
So we were sitting with someone at the bar just today when we were going over some of the future episodes, and this guy goes all over the country, all over the world, visiting breweries. And what was he talking about? IPA fatigue.
Yeah.
And this dude likes IPAs.
Like loves them.
Loves them.
But he's like, I'm going on a trip and I'm having a hard time finding breweries that aren't just IPA breweries. And I bet most of those breweries don't think of themselves as IPA breweries either. But when you look at their portfolio, it's like, this is mostly IPA breweries.
Right. And it's all the same.
Yeah.
It is all the same.
Most of it is.
It is 95 to 99% the same. Maybe 95% the same.
Yeah. It's a lot the same.
A lot the same.
Yeah.
A lot the same.
Overwhelmingly.
Yeah. I mean, there are some hoppy breweries that I definitely want to go to in the country. Not a ton, though.
Probably count them on one hand.
Right.
Should we do
I
that?
just want to go and drink all their I just want to go there, and really what I want to focus on is their hoppy stuff. Mm-hmm. Boy, oh boy. I can name 2.
Fatheads.
Yes, that's one.
Maine.
Ooh. Okay, I'll give you that one. I'll give you that one. So I have 3.
Ooh, okay, what's the other one for you, though?
You probably won't get it. McIlhenny in
Oh,
Alpine, California, because
I should
I'm
have
going to
gotten that one,
California, and I'm going to go there. And when I go there, I want to try all their IPAs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what I want to do. Mm-hmm. So I think those might be the 3 breweries, me personally, that I want to go. And I'm not really as interested in the non-hoppy stuff. I mean, even if you go to Hill Farm, if you go to Russian River, like the 2, like on the Mount Rushmore,
Right.
you're going to want to try the other stuff.
Literally, when I went to Hill Farmstead, I tried everything to avoid the IPAs. I was like, it's cliche. And then I had them, and I was like,
Yeah,
these are
great.
These are really
Yeah.
good.
Oh, no. That dude knows how to brew hoppy beer.
Right. This is why everyone up here is drinking these.
Because they're great.
They were amazing.
Yeah. So
I literally had everything else on the menu, and I was like, I guess I'll try the Edward or the Simcoe double IPA.
Glad you got to try that before you go, obviously.
Yeah.
Have we talked about the proliferation of IPA enough?
I mean, you tell us. Write us a letter if you want us to talk about it more.
And we will.
Yeah, we certainly
Once
will.
we get 5 of them, and I remember to check.
As we opened probably 6 or 7 beers in here, none of which were there's a pale ale.
There's a pale ale
a pale
that
ale.
I've just opened now.
Yeah.
First IPA of the day
It's a pale ale.
for me. Yeah.
No, not an IPA. How is it?
Terrible.
It's going to take over the world.
No, it's great.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, Sierra Nevada pale ale.
Yeah. Back next week then? Anything else we want to say? Thanks, everybody.
I should plan these better. I'm sure there's stuff I need to tell
You're
people.
great with the
but-
intros.
Yeah.
We'll have to work on the outros.
Yeah,
though.
you got to be better with the outros. I'm an intro man.
I'll work on it. All right. See ya.
Remember this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again. Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again. Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again.